Platoon won the Oscar for its brutal depiction of war, but the lives of the actors afterward became even more real and infinitely more ruthless. Some fell to drugs, others lost everything in divorce, and some passed away in silence, unnoticed. Looking back at the cast today, you'll be shocked by what they've become. Let's explore the reasons why, and pay tribute to the legacies they left behind. Let's dive in. Francesco Quinn as Ra at the age of 23. Francesco Quinn played Ra in Water, 1986, a battle-hardened soldier willing to face death to protect his comrades. The role was not only a turning point in his new career, but also a statement. Francesco didn't just live in the shadow of his legendary father Anthony Quinn. With his penetrating gaze and enigmatic presence, Ra was a spirit of the forest, faithful and haunting. But when the cameras stopped rolling, Francesco's real life turned into a quiet tragedy that no one could have predicted. Francesco Daniele Quinn, born on March 22, 1963 in Rome, was the firstborn son of film icon Anthony Quinn and costume designer Iolanda Adalori. He grew up surrounded by movie sets, emotional distance and high expectations from his famous family. Still, Francesco always felt like an outsider, burdened by the surname Quinn. A broken marriage, bickering children and mediocre media roles suffocated a man who once longed to rise above his father's greatness. He starred opposite Anthony Quinn, replaced him, and eventually never left Anthony Quinn. Despite appearing in countless television and film productions, from 24 to Transformers to Dark Side of the Moon, he has never been in the limelight. On August 5, 2011, at the age of 48, Francesco Quinn collapsed on a beachside street in Malibu while jogging with his children. A heart attack abruptly ended his career. His net worth is estimated to be only around $1 million, which is a modest amount compared to the legacy people expect from him. But perhaps the most touching and beautiful picture is the last moment. The father, an artist, collapses not in the movie, but in real life, quietly, like the Ra character he once brought to life. You'll never know until it's too late. Charlie Sheen as Chris Taylor. At the age of 21, Charlie Sheen starred in the movie Platoon, 1986, playing Chris Taylor, a naive young recruit who volunteers for the Vietnam War and witnesses the moral decline of humanity on the bloody battlefield. Unlike typical hero roles, Sheen's portrayal of drastic degradation leading to emotional collapse is what makes the film so compelling. Few, however, suspected that the internal chaos on screen was just a prelude to the real-life tragedies that followed. Carlos Erwin Estevez, born on September 3, 1965 in New York, is the youngest son of actor Martin Sheen. He grew up in Malibu, California, in a family of artists, and quickly discovered his talent and passion for acting. But away from the spotlight, Charlie quickly descended into darker territory. He was expelled from school for laziness, became addicted to drugs at a young age, and was embroiled in a series of sex scandals involving porn stars, guns, assaults, and even rape allegations. His personal life was also marked by scandal, 3 failed marriages, children born in chaos, numerous arrests, and a media firestorm when he announced that he was HIV positive in 2015, a revelation that shocked the world. At the height of his career, Sheen was the highest-paid television actor in the world, but his addictions and promiscuous lifestyle eventually transformed him from star to figurehead. In 2025, Charlie Sheen will be 60 years old. He lives quietly in Malibu, appearing occasionally in minor television projects, but his former fame has long since faded. His net worth is estimated to be around $10 million, which was once a mere bribe for the $1.8 million star who earned an episode of 2.5 Men. He can still be seen strolling along the beach in a baseball cap and sunglasses, trying to maintain a modicum of privacy in a world that once admired him and then turned its back on him. Johnny Depp as Lerner. Johnny Depp made his acting debut as Lerner in Platoon, 1986. He was a quiet, sensitive young Jewish soldier surrounded by blood at only 23 years old. Although his role was small, the film had a powerful emotional impact, cementing him as a humanist and anti-war voice amid the madness of the Vietnam War. Through Lerner's lens, audiences saw the explosive potential of a rising talent, and within a few years, Depp had become a global icon. However, Lerner's path to the legendary Jack Sparrow was long and full of loss and suffering. Depp entered the glamorous world of Hollywood as a dreamer, but later fell into addiction, depression, and failed relationships. His short but stormy marriage to Amber Heard turned his life into a global legal drama that destroyed his career, reputation, and even personality. Recordings, emotional scars, and accusations have become part of the name Johnny Depp. He once said, "I no longer play any role. I live as an accused." After a landmark trial in 2022, Johnny won a legal victory, but the price was psychological, financial, and reputational damage. The studios changed their minds, The roles have been cut. His personal life collapsed. He retired to a secluded life in France, focusing on music and painting as a way to heal the wounds that money could not heal. In 2025, Johnny Depp is 62 years old. Although his net worth peaked at over $650 million, legal battles, lawsuits, financial mismanagement, and the enormous cost of his wedding left him with an estimated net worth of $150 million. But perhaps the real value isn't in the numbers, but in the fact that he's still standing. Survivors. Tom Berenger as Sergeant Barnes. Tom Berenger was 37 when he starred in Platoon, 1986, playing Sergeant Barnes, a brutal soldier with physical and mental scars who leads his platoon through the nightmarish jungles of Vietnam. His cold face and dead eyes became a symbol of war and lost humanity. This role not only catapulted Berenger to the top of Hollywood, but behind the sunglasses and the gun was a man running from his past. Born on May 31, 1949 in Chicago, Illinois, Thomas Michael Moore, later known by the stage name Tom Berenger, grew up in a strict Catholic family. Dreaming of becoming a priest, he turned to art, plunging into chaos and internal conflict. He spent his early years as a hotel receptionist and flight attendant, struggling with supporting roles and financial instability. His real breakthrough came with Pluto, but the spotlight also revealed cracks in his soul that he couldn't heal, even decades later. Berenger's personal life was far from peaceful. He survived 3 failed marriages, fathered 6 children with 3 different women, and spent countless years oscillating between fame and reality. Those who were close to him described him as reserved, irritable, and often felt detached from reality. After the divorce, he did not reveal much. He only said, "It is not easy to live with me." Although he has never been publicly involved in a drug abuse scandal, his appearance has changed dramatically over the years, fueling rumors of botched plastic surgery, depression, and prolonged loneliness. He had reached the peak of his film career, but deep down he was still a Catholic boy with unresolved issues. Tom Berenger, now 76 years old, lives peacefully with his 4th wife in South Carolina. He no longer appears often, appearing only in independent films or small projects, sometimes in discreet supporting roles, reflecting his penchant for life in the spotlight. His net worth is estimated at around $4 million, modest compared to his peers, but enough for a quiet life in the shadows, far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Tony Todd as Warren. Tony Todd was 31 years old when he appeared in Water, 1986, playing Warren, a quiet but tenacious soldier his comrades could count on during the hell of the Vietnam War. With his imposing stature and deep, resonant voice, Tony told the story himself. But behind this seemingly unyielding persona lay a soul that had endured decades of bitter Hollywood silence. Despite his exceptional talent and training, Tony Todd spent his career struggling with the invisible burden of prejudice. The black man constantly relegated to supporting roles, eccentric characters, or troubled souls who never found peace. Hollywood admired his voice but was wary of putting him in the spotlight. Behind the scenes, there was a vicious cycle of repetitive roles, silent rejections, and endless unanswered auditions. In private life, Todd married Fatima Cortez, but the marriage did not withstand the pressures of fame and his increasing loneliness. He lived a secluded life, rarely opening up, and when he lost a close family member at the beginning of the 21st century, Tony sank into a deep silence, an anonymous depression that haunted him for years. For years, he lived alone in a house by the sea, wrote memoirs, read scripts, and lived only on a film set, where he didn't have to explain why he was always sad. On November 6, 2024, Tony Todd died at his home in Marina del Rey after a long battle with stomach cancer, an illness he hid while filming Final Destination. In the last scene, he asked for an impromptu farewell. "Life is precious. Enjoy every moment. You never know when it will end." He passed away quietly, without fanfare, leaving behind 2 children and a ruined career. His net worth at the time of his death was estimated at just $3 million, a modest sum considering the breadth of his work and influence. But perhaps most painfully, despite his many attempts to investigate the supernatural, the real Tony Todd never truly escaped his profound loneliness. Forrest Whitaker as Harold the Great. Forrest Whitaker was 25 when he appeared in The Water, 1986, playing Harold the Great, a gentle soldier who quietly struggles to maintain his humanity on a bloody battlefield. The role was neither flamboyant nor flamboyant, but conveyed a quiet emotion, reflecting his true self, deep, introverted, and always observing the world with a contemplative eye. Born on July 15, 1961 in Longview, Texas, Forrest grew up in a modest African-American family. His mother was a special education teacher, and his father worked in the insurance industry. The droopy-eyed boy dreamed of becoming an opera singer, but a back injury forced him to give up a football scholarship. It was as if fate led him to acting, starting with school plays, then tirelessly traveling through the Palisades, Juilliard, USC, and finally Cannes, where he won Best Actor in 1988. But away from the spotlight, he remained a kid with low self-esteem, always feeling different, from his voice to his eyes. His career led to an Oscar for his role in The Last King of Scotland in 2006, but his personal life was increasingly fragmented. His 22-year marriage to blown-away star Keisha Nash was a unique escape for him. They had 4 children, both biological and stepson. But in 2018, Forrest quietly filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. During this time, he suffered from depression and took up yoga and martial arts to maintain his balance. At 63, Forrest Whitaker remains committed to film and humanitarian causes. He is a UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador, founder of the peace-building organization WPDI, and star of the television series The Godfather of Harlem. His net worth is estimated at $30 million, which stems not only from his film work, but also from his investments in NBA Africa and social initiatives. He is no longer the great herald of the war-torn battlefield, but the ups and downs of life are still visible in his eyes. Kevin Dillon as Bunny. At the age of 21, Kevin Dillon starred in the film Platoon, 1986, playing Bunny, a brutal and insane American soldier who indulges in inhuman cruelty in the chaos of the Vietnam War. His performance shocks not only because of its brutality, but also because of Bunny's eyes, where fear and cruelty coexist in one body. Thanks to his youthful appearance and excellent acting, Dillon has become one of the most unforgettable characters in cinema. Born on August 19, 1965 in New Rochelle, New York, Kevin is the younger brother of actor Matt Dillon and a distant cousin of legendary comedian Alex Raymond. Raised in a family of entertainers, Dillon entered Hollywood at a young age, but fame came at a high price. He struggled with addiction, which pushed him into a crisis that seriously affected his career and personal life. His marriage to actress Jane Stewart ended after more than a decade, leaving him with 2 children and a divorce settlement of over $7 million. Dillon bitterly admitted that he felt possessed by Hollywood, as if Bunny had never truly left him. In 2025, Kevin Dillon is 59 years old. Although he is no longer at the peak of his career, he still appears in small film and television projects, leads a quieter life, but does not disappear. His net worth is estimated at $10 million, which is a reasonable amount for a career full of ups and downs. In the memory of viewers, Dillon will forever remain as Bunny, the wild spirit of war, a man lost in the glittering but lonely world of Hollywood. Willem Dafoe as Sergeant Elias. Willem Dafoe was 31 years old when he played one of the most moving characters in war movies, Sergeant Elias, in Platoon from 1986. As a moral compass in a brutal quagmire, Elias embodied not only compassion, but also a lonely soul consumed by war, like Dafoe himself, who struggled with complex emotions throughout his career. But such fame comes at a price. After gaining fame with Platoon, Willem Dafoe turned to art films and challenging roles, from Jesus in The Last Temptation of Christ to a madman in The Antichrist. But behind the aura of fame was a man who always felt alienated from himself. He once said that fame didn't make him stronger, it only deepened his sense of loss. His decades-long relationship with Elizabeth LeConte, the mother of his son, never resulted in marriage, as both viewed marriage as a form of control. So when their love ended, there was no divorce, just a silent parting. And Dafoe did it quietly, without lawsuits, without the press. When he met Giada Colagrande, an Italian film director, his life changed again. One lunch, one question. Will you marry me tomorrow? And the next day, they got married with only 2 witnesses. They split their lives between New York and Rome, making movies together and staying away from the outside world. But even when he's happy, Dafoe admits he's not easy to love or live with. The pressures of art, his obsession with characters, and his complex inner life led him to seek out yoga, meditation, or the darker roles in which he felt most alive. At 69, Willem Dafoe continues to push the boundaries of cinema with his complex and multifaceted roles, living between New York and Rome, often retreating to quiet rooms to practice yoga and write. Although his net worth is estimated at $40 million, accumulated in hundreds of roles over 4 decades, Dafoe lives a simple and conscious life. Keith David as the King. When he appeared in Platoon 1986, Keith David was 30 years old and played the King, a calm and quiet soldier who provided him with moral support during the hell of the Vietnam War. Although Keith was not the main character, his deep voice and penetrating gaze brought life to every sentence, turning the supporting role into something unforgettable. It was the beginning of a journey that would last over 40 years, led by a voice that audiences will never forget. Born on June 4, 1956 in Harlem, New York, Keith David grew up in Corona, Queens, in a working-class African-American family. His father worked in payroll, and his mother was a company director. He became interested in the performing arts from an early age, particularly after playing the role of the Cowardly Lion in a school production of The Wizard of Oz. This passion led him to the High School of Performing Arts in Manhattan, and then to the prestigious Juilliard School, from which he graduated in 1979. But being in the spotlight was only a small part of his life. What followed was a long and exhausting journey through theater, film, animation, and video games. With countless obscure roles and solo trips across the United States, Keith was driven by love for his art, but it also came at a high price. He survived 2 failed marriages, in the first of which he had a son whom he rarely saw, and in the second 2 daughters, which eventually fell apart. In an interview, he admitted that although he explored many religions, Catholic, Anglican, and Baptist, he ultimately chose to believe in spirituality over structure. On lonely nights after a busy schedule, he often reads Psalm 116, a biblical passage about thanksgiving and redemption. "I'm not religious," he told friends in a hoarse voice, "but I believe in God and forgiveness. On and off screen, I'm still learning not to be bitter." Keith David, at 69, shows no signs of slowing down. He continues to appear in films, television shows, and voiceover projects, from Has-Been Hotel to Rick and Morty and Destiny 2. With more than 400 roles in 4 decades, he is an artist who never needs to be a cover star to be appreciated in the industry. His current net worth is estimated at around $5 million, a modest sum considering the scope of his career, but a fair reward for a life well lived. In 2026, he will receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, a long-awaited but significant honor. You would never recognize the pain behind that voice. Mark Moses as Lieutenant Wolf. In 1986, at the age of 28, Mark Moses played Lieutenant Wolf in the movie Platoon, a young officer fresh out of training, unprepared for the brutality of war. With twitching eyes and suffocating ranks in the heat of battle, Moises convincingly portrayed a commander powerless in the face of the cruelty of the battlefield. The role caught the attention of director Oliver Stone, paving the way for a long career. Born on February 24, 1958, in New York City, Moses was the captain of his high school football team, but gave up sports to devote himself to writing and later to theater. After appearing on various stages and venues, he found his purpose in life in the spotlight. However, his personal life was not as peaceful as the life of his characters. His marriage to actress Lisa, once considered one of Hollywood's longest-lasting, ended quietly. After the divorce, Moses struggled with mental health crises, anxiety, and a persistent sense of isolation that haunted him for years. In 2025, Mark Moses was 66 years old. Although no longer a star at the box office, he still appears in memorable supporting roles on television. In shows like The Last Ship, Homeland, and Queen of the North. Now she lives a more private life, away from the red carpet and the spotlight. His estimated net worth is around $2 million, which is a modest amount compared to the stars of his generation. Corey Glover as Francis. At the age of 21, Corey Glover made movie history as Francis in Water, 1986. A somewhat naive young soldier who romanticizes war but is slowly and quietly crushed by the brutality of the Vietnam War. Glover's Francis is a quiet character, but with exceptional emotional depth. A look of confusion, a growing fear, and a bitter awakening turned a seemingly insignificant role into a profound voice in the midst of a fierce war. Few knew that behind this phenomenon was a rising star destined to shake up the rock world. Born on November 6, 1964 in Brooklyn, New York, Corey initially dreamed of an acting career, but his fate changed when Vernon Reid saw him sing Happy Birthday at a friend's party and invited him to be the lead singer of the band Living Colour. His music career soared with the hit Cult of Personality, but since then Corey began to struggle with himself. The pressures of fame, media expectations, and endless touring led to a prolonged nervous breakdown. He divorced, distanced himself from his son, and once admitted, "I no longer recognize the man in the mirror." Glover struggles with his religious faith and the temptations of acting. He plays Judas in the movie Jesus Christ Superstar, a metaphor for his own life, crucified between light and darkness. In 2025, Corey Glover is 60 years old. He still performs with Living Colour, still passionate about the stage, even though he is no longer at the peak of his career. His net worth is estimated at $3 million, but his greatest value lies in survival, overcoming fame, depression, and pain. The singer, who once oscillated between acting and music, is now firmly rooted in one role himself. Or maybe the most memorable image is not from a movie or a concert, but him standing in the middle of the crowd, with a calm look, like someone who just went through hell and decided to come home singing. John C. McGinley as Sergeant O'Neill. John C. McGinley played Sergeant Red O'Neill in the Oscar-winning film Platoon, 1986. He was a cynical, opportunistic soldier who avoided combat and, at the age of 27, survived through cunning rather than bravery. Although not the lead, his character is an important piece of the puzzle, reflecting the moral decay and broken ideals of the Vietnam War. With his sharp eye and cold style, McGinley both offended and captivated the audience. Born on August 3, 1959 in Greenwich Village, New York, John grew up in a family of 5. His father was a stockbroker and his mother was a teacher. His childhood was filled with high expectations, and he was never fully heard. After graduating from New York University's Tisch School, he began a challenging career as an actor. However, behind this glow was a hidden pain that was never fully revealed. His first marriage, to Lauren Lambert, ended a few years later when their son Max was born with Down syndrome. The burden of being a father to a child with special needs, coupled with the relentless pace of the entertainment industry, plunged McGinley into a depression he described as silent, persistent, and inevitable. In 2025, John C. McGinley was 65 years old, still living in Malibu and active in the film industry and disability rights. His net worth is estimated at $12 million, but the audience remembers him most not only for his roles, but also for the moment when he hugged his son Max at the Special Olympics Stadium, whispering to him, "I'm proud of you, not because you won a medal, but because you never gave up." A simple, honest moment that reminds us that sometimes the toughest people on screen have the softest hearts in real life. After all these years, The Battlefield in Water is no longer just a movie memory.